start recording. Good afternoon, everyone. Welcome to yet another session in the KYAC Conference 2024. Today we have with us Tanya Swan from Louisville Free Public Library, here to present Day of Play, creating events to inspire movement, creativity, and risk-taking. Take it away, Tanya.
Thank you very much. So I'm very excited to present on this topic. It is one that is near and dear to my heart because my background is environmental education. So yeah, let's jump right into this. So one of the things I always ask adults, especially people of my generation, I am Gen X, when I encounter parents or people that are nervous about taking their kids outside or letting their kids climb trees and things like that, I always ask them, remember when you were a child, what kind of things did you do? And a lot of times they're surprised when they start thinking back to the things that they did, and they're like, oh my gosh, did I do that? Wow, and I survived. And I think it's really important because I think so many times because of media and just various factors, we lose sight of the importance of being able to take risks as a child and being able to explore and use imagination and not have, things done for you. And by that, I mean, like imaginative play. Kids are very capable of using a pot and sticks and leaves and having a full-blown kitchen cooking experience without the plastic kitchen whole, model that you can purchase at stores that have the microwave and the electronic refrigerator and all those good things. So I just want, for those of you that have speakers or can be on the chat, what are some of the experiences you had as a child that you remember?
So while we're waiting, I'll go ahead and unmute. This is Lauren. While we're waiting for folks to type some things in, because it may take a second for that to pop up. As a kid, I remember playing in the kind of wooded area behind my house a lot, crawling through kind of the big storm drain, crawling in the creek in front of the house. We've got a comment from Jennifer. Climbing trees, playing in the creek, wandering in the woods. So it sounds like we had kind of similar childhoods. Wendy says playing outside all day in friends' backyards. Elizabeth says making potions with my next door friend using anything we could find in our yards. Rhonda says we made mud pies with rocks in them for chocolate chips. We went into the wood and swung on grapevines. That sounds like a really awesome childhood right there.
Yes.
Let's see, Emma says, driving four-wheelers around my farm, catching fish, climbing trees, putting up fences. That doesn't sound so much like play. That sounds more like work. But that's okay. We'll take it, Emma.
Yeah. Well, so yeah, it sounds like everyone shares some similar experiences. And so
let me share one more because
yes, please.
This is good. So Jennifer says, I climbed partway up the electrical tower once.
Wow.
That's awesome. Let's see, another comment for Rhonda. Also, jumping from the loft into the hay our dad had stacked up.
Oh, fun.
Yes, very fun.
Yes. So yeah, it sounds like a lot of people did have environments where they were allowed to take risks. And I think that's so important. I used to work for parks, and I used to do a lot of research on things. And one of the articles I came across that's always stuck with me was how kids in high school and college were beginning to take crazy risks, like jumping off of crazy heights and just, you know, not thinking things through, like really, really doing things where you are like, what were you thinking? And it was because researchers found that these kids had been part of that generation that the playgrounds and everything started to have the rubber mulch or the rubber matting, and everything was very much safety regulated, unlike us who had the 20-foot slide that scorched you on the way down and the monkey bars over the concrete. This generation didn't have that. They had very safe environments in which to play. And what they found is the kids did not have the ability to assess accurately risk in a situation because they had grown up where doing, you know, taking more risks that would have resulted in maybe a scraped knee or elbow or a bumped head. That didn't happen. And so they didn't have the ability to assess risk like we do, or like kids that had all those things, because we had, you know, cause and effect. We, you know, do something, we're like, oh, we got hurt. That was a risk I took, and next time I'm gonna do it a little bit differently. And so this generation did not have that ability. So that's why safe risk taking is an important component of growing up and being a child. But yeah, so children are becoming more and more disconnected from nature. Obviously, I think all of us know the reasons: the electronic devices, access to green spaces, stranger danger, the frightening media images of environmental problems, and getting dirty. You know, I encounter that a lot. Parents are like, "Oh, don't get dirty, don't get in the mud." You know, so that kids start to formulate the idea that the outdoors is a bad thing. They don't feel welcome in the outdoors. So yeah, lots of reasons. I don't know if any of you have read Richard Louve's book, The Last Child in the Woods, but he quotes a study that shows that media portrays the amount of danger to children from other individuals to be much higher than it actually is. And it's actually, crimes against children is the lowest now than it has been since the 70s. So that's pretty crazy, but because everybody hears all the things that happen everywhere all at once, it seems in our minds that it's increased when actually it is decreased. So yeah, there's that special little playground with lots of plastic and the rubberized mulch, and it's all contained and it's all separated from the natural world. I do think a lot of people are realizing this. In Louisville, we've seen a huge increase in the number of nature preschools. They have one at Jefferson Memorial Forest. I think they have one at the Louisville Nature Center, Creasy Mayan Preserve. So a lot of places are really embracing the nature play concept. But so what if as libraries we could create these spaces or these opportunities for kids to engage in safe, creative play and interact with the outdoors in a way that encourages them to use their imaginations and to actively interact with, that sounded funny, actively interact. Anyway, interact with nature. And so that's where the Greatest Day of Play came in. The Greatest Day of Play is an annual event, although I do nature play once a month that offers pieces of the Greatest Day of Play each month. But the Greatest Day of Play is a gateway. It is a gateway for people who live in an urban setting or maybe in a suburban setting to engage outdoors as a family, creatively and actively, and with the minimal amount of stuff. So these are just, you're going to see lots and lots of pictures because this event is just perfect for taking lots of cute pictures. So as you can see, the materials we use are minimal. You know, the saying, kids, they get something really big and really expensive for Christmas, and all they want to play with is the box. It is absolutely true. I found a source for huge boxes, washing machine boxes, refrigerator boxes, and kids absolutely love it. And all we have to do is just put the boxes out there. You can see below 2 little boys. These are all materials that children all day gathered themselves, and they're working on making a bug motel. Now, obviously not a traditional bug hotel, but it also kind of became an impromptu art piece as well, because they were, you know, building all these little structures and things with it, and it was really cute. So yeah, what is the greatest day of play? It can be anything and everything that my staff comes up with. So we actually built a mud puddle, a giant mud puddle. So we have mud play. We have a color dance. I don't know if anybody's familiar with color runs or the Diwali holiday, where they throw powder in the air, but that was our color dance, and there'll be more pictures of that. We bring in community partners, and they've all been super enthusiastic. So Falls of the Ohio, they do fossil digging and fishing practice with the target plugs. We have the orchestra, they do a drumming circle. Blackacre brings farm animals. We have a group that sponsors sports, so we have ongoing soccer games. We have dancing groups come and perform and bring the children and the families into that experience. Shakespeare, storytelling, yoga, all sorts of things. We do sidewalk chalk art. So we have high school art students create beautiful pieces of chalk art, and in between their pieces, kids contribute. And it's really cool because not only do the kids contribute, but I think the parents are inspired by what the high schoolers are doing. And so parents start creating these amazing pieces of sidewalk chalk art as well. Play acting, we put out capes and masks and things so the kids can act out and come up with anything like that. We have what we call the tot lot for itty bitties, and we have lots of sensory and loose parts play. We have a water table for them. We have smaller boxes for them to build with. And then the art is a big component. For several years, we did finger painting on our windows. We have these huge, huge glass windows, and the kids covered it and they loved it, and it was awesome. But you do want to check with your facilities people, because when one of our facilities people saw it, they weren't exactly thrilled with that. So that's just a lesson in working with all the powers that be. And we do splat painting with cushy balls. That was a big hit. We just hung up a huge tarp and had a bucket of cushy balls in different colors of paint, and the kids just threw them at the tarp, and it was a lot of fun. We have, as far as like equipment, we have very simple basic equipment. So hula hoops, lots of inflatable balls, soccer balls, giant balls, and then we also have water play with bubbles, and so that's awesome. That is right next to the mud play. So kids get muddy, and then they can come over and they can play in the soap and the water, and they can get washed off. So that all works out.
Hi, Tanya. We've got a couple of comments in the chat that I wanted to mention. So first, Jennifer asks, please share the source for the large boxes. That's hard to come by. So do you guys have a good connect for that?
We do. And actually, so used to, you could go to Home Depot, Lowe's, and they're kind of reticent to share their boxes. And so, Jennifer, you're absolutely right. They're hard to come by because of that. What we did is we actually went to a family-owned local furniture and appliance store, and they were so much nicer to work with, and they were very much about community and kids. And so when we told them what we needed, they said, oh yeah, just go around back. That's where we put our boxes when we're going to recycle them. And they have like a 5-foot pile high stack of boxes of the large variety. And they, we just show up, we take 20, 30 boxes. And the other nice thing is we can bring them back, put them back on the pile, and they'll recycle them. So yeah, just deal with local folks. It's much easier.
Okay, and then we've got, that is a really great tip. We have another comment from Kennedy who says, Heather Dent in Berea runs Winterberry Studio that hosts programs like this throughout my community. The studio's website and Facebook page has lots of wonderful ideas for a day of play, and she gave the link in the chat.
Oh, cool. I definitely want to see that. Thank you. Is there any more questions?
That's it for now. I'm sure more will come in later.
Okay, so I've just got I've got lots of pictures. If you get tired of seeing pictures, just let me know. But we've been doing this since 2022, so this is our we just completed our third year. So there's a picture of our windows, the windows in progress, and then the dramatic play. There's a picture of a mother and child engaging in that. The drumming circle that the orchestra does. Shakespeare, the little piggies are part of a Shakespeare program. And then the color dance that we had. So we have music, and we just start playing the music. Kids come running, and we set out tubs. We have a circle of tubs. And then I found this year from Amazon, powder balls. So they're like just little, you probably could actually make them with pantyhose if you wanted, but it was easier for us to buy them. But they're little pouches with the powder inside. And the powder that we purchase is cornstarch, and then it uses natural dyes. So, because we were very cognizant about allergies and people breathing in this substance, so we wanted to make sure that it was a safe substance. So here's some pictures from the tot lot. We have like tents. We had a little ball pit. There's a picture of little girls playing in the water play area. We also found that Kroger will donate to community groups their flowers. Like when they have to pull the flowers due to freshness or their expiration, they just toss them in the dumpster. So we went and we were like, is it okay if we take these flowers? And they were like, oh, sure. We donate flowers all the time to groups. We usually donate them for centerpieces. And we were like, what? They're that nice? We got actual pots of orchids, like those, and they were beautiful. They were gorgeous. And we gave those to staff for working the event because they gave us so many just bouquets of flowers that they weren't going to sell. And so we use that in the loose parts play. Kids use those in potions and making salad and cooking with. And it was just beautiful and very colorful. So Kroger, go to Kroger, ask about their flowers. And then mud play. I love this picture because the little girl that looks somewhat clean and laying there, that was 2022. And then the picture of the little girl with her goggles stretched out is the same little girl in 2024. And this is like the biggest highlight for her. And so in 2024, she was totally prepared. She came in her bathing suit, she came with her goggles, and that she had been living for this to come back around to get in the mud and play. And again, not a lot of preparation other than creating. We did have to use a rototiller to break up the grass and dig that up. But yeah, we just use pie plates, tin plates. We go to the dollar store and get those plastic bowls. The hardest part of this activity is at the end, just collecting all the stuff and washing it off for use next year. Not all of the aluminum plates and pans survive, but that's okay. We just rinse them and recycle them.
And we've got another question in the chat from Atlanta. Atlanta the name, not Atlanta the place. I love all of this. How would you go about providing a safe or sensory space for families that want to participate but need to be away from crowds or other people?
That is an excellent question. And I have to admit, it's not one that I thought about. So we do provide an area, and a little bit further along, I've got I think maybe one or two pictures. We call it the read and rest area, and it's under this little grouping of trees, and we hang hammocks up. We put out little pup tents, and it's just like a place kind of removed from all the crowds and all the activities for families to go and just kind of take a break, take a breather, read some books. And you can kind of see it in the background of the picture of the family of three. The mother has glasses. You can see one of the hammocks in the back. But as far as an entire event, that is intriguing to me and something that definitely bears thinking about. So I appreciate that, Atlanta. And if you have some suggestions, I would love to hear your thoughts on it too, as well.
All right. And then we have a comment from Kayla. She says, I love this. Every child should experience this. I know my 2-year-old would cry if I had to pull him away from this type of program. And then Jennifer has a comment that just popped in. Maybe having a sensory friendly hour for the first or last hour of event.
Oh, that's a good idea. I've made note of this for next year's greatest day of play. Thank you. Oh, so yeah. So obviously these are all families that have come. You can see that the families fully participate. I've seen moms and dads get into the mud. I've seen moms and dads chasing their kids with the bubble guns and the water hoses and all of that. And it's hilarious because like all of a sudden, like the parents are acting like kids and the kids are just stunned. One of the things that to make note of with the mud play is the amazing transformation you see, because children will come, they will come to the edge of the mud pit, the mud puddle, and they have this look of just not being sure, almost being scared, and really looking to their parents for permission to get dirty. They're very unsure about it, very tentative. And, you see them make those first, sticking a finger in, putting their foot in. And then by, 30 minutes later, they're like fully immersed in it. And that is one of the transformations that I really love to see with this event. But yeah, just more pictures of families. And our families, after 3 years, they've really, now they come prepared. So parents and kids both are like either in bathing suits or they're in clothes that can get dirty. So yeah, they've started to come to expect this is the day that we're just, as a family, we are going to get messy and do all the things. And then, of course, this is an area of kind of a quiet area that we have. We put out sheets, long sticks, all sorts of like those clip clamps, tarps, for shelter building. And then parents and kids can build their own tent, their own shelter, under which they can read or rest or do things like that.
We have another question in the chat. How long does the event last?
So the first year we had it go for, well, originally in 2019, before COVID, our dream had been to do the longest day of play. It's actually a national event, and it starts at 6:39 in the morning when the sun comes up and goes on until like 9:30 something at night. And so we initially had like activities and stuff planned, and we didn't get to do it because we started heading into the lockdown and everything in 2020. So when we came out of it, we were like, well, we need to scale this down. And then also the longest day of play was on a Sunday, so that wasn't going to work for union staff, things like that. So we just went with the greatest day of play. The first year we did 10 to 4, and we really found that people started leaving at about 2:30. It's just like so much fun, so much stimulation, and so they started leaving then. So then the last 2 years we've done it from 10 to 2, and that seems to be the sweet spot. Any other questions? So this slide is just kind of for if you have somebody that, is on the fence about it, wondering about the value of it, any kind of activity. And even if you don't go for a big activity like the greatest day of play, and you just do, monthly or weekly nature play, any kind of unstructured time outside is so impactful for children. And I think the reasons here really, they're such powerful reasons, especially in the times that we are living in. Does anybody have any questions about this slide?
Not any questions thus far, but I will definitely chime in when we see anything in the chat.
Okay. So more questions, more pictures. So you can see that this is kind of the transition area. We use tarps we found that really helps as far as washing the kids down, but also it is amazing to me, kids can make a toy out of anything. And so one of the unintended uses for the tarp is a slip and slide. And then we have a little boy, he's doing the target fishing with the plugs that Falls of the Ohio, they do with our kids. And then of course, another picture that just shows the scope of how, of the Mud Puddle Kitchen and the kids all coming together. And then also just the risk taking. So, the mud play, it's a risk. Kids so many times are told, don't get messy, don't get dirty. And for them to break free of those commands that they hear on a daily basis and get dirty and get messy, that's a mental risk for them because so often they're told not to. And then here's a place where they're allowed to just, get as dirty and as messy as they possibly can. And then, of course, the risk taking, some of my staff were, kind of hesitant. I have to admit, when I first started as an environmental educator, I was coming from the classroom. And so sometimes some of the situations I would get into with kids hiking or climbing would make me nervous. And I read this book. It's called The Geography of Childhood. And it's such a powerful book in arguing the need for children to be able to take risk and to really fully experience that level of responsibility and decision making, but under the guidance and the supervision of their adults. But just having that supportive adult that lets them do those things and gives them the confidence to do those things is really important in childhood development and creating individuals that have that confidence to do that. And also just to learn their bodies, learn the limitations and the abilities that their bodies have to do the things that they want to do, I think is very important. So, sometimes my staff is like, oh, they're doing gymnastics, they're rolling. What if they bump their head or break an arm? And I'm like, it might happen, but anything can happen, and didn't you do cartwheels in the backyard? Again, going back to our childhoods. And they're like, oh, yeah, I did. So I think we just get trained over time to just trained in the imperative to keep children safe and to shield them and then, and it's not necessary. Kids are amazing, resilient beings that just need that ability, need that chance to see their strength and their resilience. And if we always protect them and never allow them those opportunities, then they don't. So yeah, climbing trees. We let the kids climb trees. We've got stumps and climbing things around the library outside. And it amazes me. We don't, we just put the stumps and the logs and the branches and things outside. And, we have people like, oh, what if a child falls? And I'm like, well, it's not that high and their parents are with them. So, it just works. And it amazes me on a daily basis how many kids play and they will rearrange these large logs and these large stumps. I don't know how they do it, but like kids who've never met each other before will come together and start working together to pick up this log and move it to this place where they think it's a better place. And their vision is that they're going to lean this log up against this tree and they're going to, create this structure. And it just amazes me. Kids are just constantly impressing me. That's why we all do what we do. So are there any questions or anything?
No other questions. I just put in the chat that the Geography of Childhood, there are a couple libraries in Kentucky that own copies, so you might ask your interlibrary loan librarian to see about getting that book if you want to read it.
Yeah, I think the author's Peter Nab, NahnaB, maybe? Nab? I don't know.
Yeah, it's Nabhan, so Gary Paul Nabhan.
Yes, thank you. Thank you.
I've got a link to the entry on our WorldCat catalog. So KDLA does not own a copy, but Louisville Free Public Library does, as does Woodford County Library. So might be able to reach out through interlibrary loan for that.
Absolutely. So this slide, just kind of recounting, and there's a picture of the one of the hammocks in the read and rest area. But yeah, we are already gathering places in our community. So we're really, depending on your location and the amount of green space your library has, we're a natural fit for this kind of program. And even if it's not a big, huge event, providing outdoor places to read, if you have a space to hang hammocks, we check out the hammocks, providing a place for the community to come and share nature and art-based learning activities. So yeah, and I'm a huge fan, encourager of experiential play. So we do a lot of that, and we incorporate a lot of that in all of our programs at the Louisville Library. So the nitty gritty, staffing, materials, and budget. The materials, as you can see, they are so basic. Sometimes when I order the materials for this program, I'm like, shouldn't I be ordering something more amazing, something cooler than buckets, tarps, aluminum pie plates? So yeah, it's very, very basic. We use a lot of recycled materials. We use a lot of materials from our hardware store, and a lot of things you can just, reach out to your coworkers, because there are things that they have in their back garden sheds. So, the tarps, the buckets, a lot of things can be procured from the dollar store. So the actual equipment budget for this is very inexpensive. Like, I think I've spent $500 for everything one year that we used. And that was like the first year when I was getting things. And so a lot of the stuff, like the tarps, my staff think I'm crazy, but like I will hose the tarps off at the end of the day and spread them and dry them and fold them. But that way we have them next year. And then the tents, you can see pop-up tents. Our library, we're lucky that our library owns a set of pop-up tents. But if you wanted to spend money on something, I would definitely do the pop-up tents to provide shade if you're doing this in the summer. Then probably the biggest amount of money I've spent is on performers. It just depends. Sometimes the performers will do it for free. Sometimes they won't. Food trucks that's how we provide food for our families, and they are very popular and very appreciative for the business. And so, yeah, most of the things are just things that we scavenge from the library and from each other. So that's kind of the budget. All total, I spend about $2,000. Last year, I spent about $2,800 some odd dollars. And like I said, it's because we had yoga, and we had a dance company, and we had, let's see, who else did we have? Yoga, dance company, somebody else. And then we do have to pay for our food trucks. We have to pay a minimum, and then to get them to come out. So yeah. And staffing, I will say, it only works if you have enthusiastic staff. So from these pictures, you can see I have very enthusiastic staff. And anytime you offer the opportunity for children's librarians to be able to just hose a kid down, they get really excited about it, just to hose a kid down. I don't understand, but yeah, I don't usually have to beg for staff, other than just making sure that branches are covered, things like that. So sometimes managers aren't able to provide staff because of low staffing levels, but I also use volunteers. I've got great teen volunteers, so that also is a bonus. Are there any questions on those things?
We're not seeing any questions yet, but I did want to plug, an opportunity coming up grant-wise, even though you said you didn't need a lot of funding for this. But if you're looking at really changing up, say you're programming for kids, doing more outdoor programming, next month in November, KDLA will be releasing another round of its special projects grant, which can be used for many different purposes. So maybe something to do with, creating a big event like this, some of those expenditures like buying, the outdoor tents and other things, maybe paying for performers, that might be something you want to, try to use KDLA grant funding for. So be looking out on the listservs for those announcements.
That's very cool. So just, I looked for a picture of this, and I couldn't find one. So we did the color dance, and then the second year I had a staff person who was concerned about, if children had asthma, and I wasn't too worried about it. We didn't have any problems or any incidents the first year we did the color dance, and it is cornstarch, but just in case, and just to honor her idea and her request, we decided to do something different. So we got a foam machine, and we were going to have a foam dance. And oh my goodness, it was the craziest thing all of us had ever seen. So we have our foam machine, we're getting it started, and we didn't announce it immediately because we wanted to kind of get a large amount of foam for kids to play in and to dance in. But the kids came over, and their little faces were like right up against the foam coming out of the machine. And then the parents thought that was incredible, and so the parents were all really tightly gathered around all the kids, who were like just packed around the foam machine, and no foam was getting out or going anywhere, and parents were taking pictures. And so we were like, back up, and it wasn't happening. And finally, we just had to get mean and be like, back up. And then they were like, oh, okay. And then they backed up. The foam kind of accumulated, and we continued with the dance. But I had never seen anything like it. So yeah, you just want to be aware of like energy levels and all the things that you offer. You want to just have you and your staff watch for those things. We did have a 4-year-old brother and a 2-year-old little brother in the mud area, and the older brother decided he was done with his brother, so he was going to bury him in the mud, like really bury him in the mud. So that was a situation. So yeah, just keep in mind this is risk taking, safe risk taking, and the thought is you're bringing the families together and the parents in to see, you know, how simple it is to have these amazing experiences with their children, and you know how little it takes to do these things, you know, because so many parents are like, oh, I'm going to go get a box, and they act like it's like the newest invention in the world, like we're going to get a box to put in the backyard. I had no idea my child would enjoy playing in a box so much, you know. And we've had parents ask us, can we have the boxes after the event? And we're like, yeah, sure, take what you want. But yeah, just be aware of that sometimes children lose their minds and parents lose their minds, and so you just, yeah, keep an eye on that piece.
Right, we have some questions, comments in the chat. So first from Stephanie, she says, I hosted mud days when I was a preschool teacher years ago, and believe me, hosing a kid off is an amazing experience. So we hardly agree with that. And then Michaela has a question. How did you promote this event, especially in the first year? I can imagine families seeing photos from prior years and getting it and wanting to attend.
Yeah, so the first year we had probably, I would say 300 people, and we promoted it with posters, online, social media, and I think we had one news spot where a staff person, our community relations person, was interviewed about this event. The second year, we had 3 news stations, do their morning shows. Like that made for a very intense week because I had to be at the library on Monday at 4 a.m., Wednesday at 4 a.m., and Thursday at 4 a.m. And then, of course, the event was Saturday, and to do the morning shows. And we would have the community partners, they would come out and they would do some of the spots. We had Blackacre bring out their goats, and Falsley, Ohio came out and talked about fossils. And we had about 1,200 people that year, maybe a little bit more, 1,300. And then this past year, we didn't do so much media because that was exhausting. And so we had probably about 1,200, 1,100, a little bit less, but not by much. But yeah, if you can get the morning shows, because those guys, you know, generally the guys or the women that do the morning shows are kind of a little crazy. They're the ones that do the spots in between the news, and they love building box structures and getting down on the ground in front of a baby goat. And yeah, they love any opportunity where they can get a little crazy. They welcome that. But none of them wanted to get in the mud. So I think we are toward the end. And so I do have some community resources just that I used, but you can contact them from wherever you are. These are all people that I've worked with, and they're really big. Well, they're professionals when it comes to outdoor play and getting kids outside safely. Rebecca Minnick, she runs the Louisville Nature Center kindergarten, and they are outside all day, every day, and it is amazing what they've done. The Kentucky Association for Environmental Educators. They have a conference every year, and it's such a great way to make contact with so many people and all of the exciting things that are going on in environmental education. So yeah, Nature Explorer, they have great products and great things if you can afford them. So that grant would come in very handy to purchase some of the things that they have. We're an urban library, so we don't put out a lot of stuff because sometimes it can walk off. But I'm pretty sure some of you guys probably could set up some really cool nature spaces in and around your libraries and do some amazing things with that. So yeah, that is the end of my presentation. And I think I stopped right on time.
You are just pretty much on the dot. So thank you so much. I think I speak for a lot of us when we say, I really want to go out and get in a mud puddle now. Of course, the bad part is I have to clean up my own mess, but yeah, it reminds me of those days when I would just be outside the entire time, just messing around with nothing much and having the best time ever. Elizabeth says, I love this. Thank you so much.
Well, if you guys take this idea and run with it at your libraries, I think that would just be awesome and amazing. And if there's any way I can help, just reach out to me. Yeah.
All right. And what is your email address real fast?
Oh, I guess I could have put that in. My email is tanya.swan@lfpl.org. And I spell my name TONYA.SWAN. And again, it's LFPL for Louisville Free Public Library.org.
Right, awesome. I tossed that into the chat for everyone. So please feel free to reach out to Tanya if you have any questions, want to share ideas. Otherwise, thank you guys so much for attending the KYAC conference first day. We really appreciate it, and we look forward to having you guys back tomorrow.
And thank you, Lauren. Thank you for all your help and technical support.